Did God create us? Or are we brave enough to admit we don't know? Did God create us? It sounds like a religious question, but it isn't. It's a human question. Because behind that question is something deeper, something raw, something every human being feels at some point in their life. Do I matter? Is there a reason I'm here? Was I created? Or am I just an accident? From the moment we enter this world, we are surrounded by mystery. A newborn opens its eyes, and everything is overwhelming. Light, sound, movement, life. That look in a baby's eyes isn't knowledge. It's wonder. It's the silent question. What is all this? And very quickly, as adults, we rush to answer that question. Some say, God created everything. Others say, nature did, evolution did, chance did. Different cultures, different beliefs, different explanations. But let's be honest for a moment. None of us created ourselves. None of us created this planet. None of us created the universe. We didn't create life. We interfered with it. We used it. We manipulated it. But we did not create it. So the real issue is not whether God exists. The real issue is this. Do you need an explanation? Or are you willing to explore? Because these are two very different paths. When you accept an explanation given by someone else, you have only two options. Believe it or reject it. If you believe it, you may feel confident. But confidence is not clarity. If you reject it, you feel confused. And most people are terrified of confusion. They don't know how to sit with it. They don't know how to face it without fear. So they cling to belief, and here's the dangerous truth. Everything you don't truly know, you believe. And beliefs have divided humanity more than anything else. Because when I believe something is the absolute truth, and you believe something else is the absolute truth, one of us must be wrong. And when belief becomes identity, coexistence becomes impossible. That's how wars begin. That's how hatred grows. That's how intelligence shuts down. But there is something far more powerful than belief. It's three simple words. I don't know. Those words are not weakness. They are not ignorance. They are not failure. They are honesty. When you truly admit I don't know, something incredible happens. Your mind wakes up. Your awareness sharpens. Your intelligence turns on. Because the moment you stop pretending you know everything, the possibility of knowing becomes real. Think about it. When you think, I already know, you stop looking. You stop listening. You stop learning. And that's when people do the most foolish, destructive things. But when you genuinely accept I don't know, there is no fight. You don't need to defend yourself. You don't need to attack others. You don't need to prove anything. You become open. And openness is where growth begins. Here's something most people never realize. No matter how much knowledge you collect, what you know is microscopic compared to existence. But what you don't know is infinite. Your ignorance is vast, boundless, limitless. And that's not an insult. That's an opportunity. If you identify yourself with what you know, you become rigid, closed, trapped inside conclusions. But if you identify yourself with what you don't know, you become limitless. You become curious, alert, alive. Look at the world around you. We can split atoms. We can fuse them. We can make them explode. But do we truly know what an atom is? No, we know how to use things, but we don't know their true nature. And yet, instead of being humbled by that mystery, we rush to conclusions. We label, we explain, we close the door. But the universe does not open itself to conclusions. It opens itself only to attention. Everything that has ever opened up in your life, any door, any opportunity, any understanding, ultimately opened because you paid attention, not because you believed harder, Not because you argued louder, but because you looked. Real attention doesn't discriminate. It doesn't say, this is important, that is not. It looks at everything with the same intensity. A star, a leaf, an ant, your own breath. If you truly paid attention to a single ant, you would realize something shocking. Whatever created that ant paid just as much attention to it as it did to you. So who are we to decide who matters more? And here's where everything changes. This body you're living in was not assembled from the outside. You didn't build it with your hands. It was created from within. Every cell, every breath, every heartbeat, which means one undeniable truth remains. Whatever the source of creation is, it is functioning inside you. You may call it God. You may call it nature. You may call it the universe. Names don't matter. What matters is this. If the source of life is happening within you and you never notice it, that is not a philosophical problem. That is a tragedy. And this is where the question changes. Not, did God create us? But if the source of creation is alive within me, what am I doing with my life? Belief is comfortable. Awareness is demanding. Most people don't want truth. They want comfort. Comfort feels safe. Comfort feels familiar. Comfort doesn't challenge who you are. That's why belief is so attractive. Belief asks nothing from you except acceptance. You don't have to look deeper. You don't have to question yourself. You don't have to change. You just have to say, this is what I believe. And suddenly you feel grounded. But listen carefully. Belief does not make you conscious. Belief does not make you intelligent. Belief does not make you alive. It only makes you certain. And certainty without awareness is one of the most dangerous states a human being can be in. Because when you are certain, you stop observing, you stop listening, you stop paying attention. And life does not reveal itself to people who stop paying attention. Awareness is different. Awareness is uncomfortable. Awareness forces you to look at yourself honestly, your habits, your fears, your excuses, your contradictions. Belief says, I already know. Awareness says, I am willing to see. And seeing changes everything. Here's a hard truth most people avoid. You can believe in God and still live unconsciously. You can believe in nothing and still live with depth, discipline, and responsibility. So the real divide in this world is not between believers and non-believers. It's between awake people and asleep people. Awake people are attentive. They notice life happening within them. Asleep people live on autopilot, reacting, blaming, repeating the same patterns year after year. They wake up, they rush, they consume, they distract themselves. They sleep again. And one day they wake up old, still asking the same questions, still blaming the same forces, still waiting for something outside themselves to save them. But awareness doesn't wait. Awareness demands presence. It demands that you stop running from silence, that you stop numbing yourself with noise, that you stop filling every empty moment with distraction. Because silence is where reality speaks, and most people are terrified of silence because silence reveals the truth. Let's be clear, if there is a creator and that creative force is functioning within you, then awareness is not optional. It is your responsibility. And if there is no creator, if this life is a rare cosmic accident, then awareness becomes even more urgent, because this is the only moment you get. Either way, sleepwalking through life is the greatest waste imaginable. Here's something powerful to understand. When you truly realize, you naturally become attentive. You listen more. You observe more. You slow down. And when attention deepens, life begins to reveal itself in ways belief never could. You start noticing your breath, your body, your reactions. You notice how easily you get triggered, how quickly fear takes control, how often your mind drags you into the past or the future. And instead of running from these things, you see them, not to judge yourself, but to understand. And understanding brings choice. Before awareness, you react. After awareness, you respond. That difference is the difference between slavery and freedom. Look at how much energy humanity wastes fighting over ideas. Ideas about God, ideas about identity, ideas about who is right and who is wrong. But an aware person doesn't need to fight ideas. They are too busy experiencing reality. They know one simple truth. Reality doesn't need your belief. It exists whether you agree with it or not. Your heartbeat doesn't require belief. Your breath doesn't ask permission. Life happens anyway. So instead of arguing about the source of life, an aware person asks, how deeply am I experiencing it? And here's where motivation becomes real. Awareness without action is incomplete. Once you see clearly, you can no longer live carelessly. You cannot abuse your body. You cannot waste your time. You cannot betray your potential and pretend you don't know. Awareness brings responsibility, not imposed by religion, not enforced by society, but born from clarity. You begin to understand. Every thought matters. Every action matters. Every moment matters. Not because someone is watching you, but because you are watching yourself. Most people want motivation. They want to feel inspired without being transformed. But real motivation doesn't hype you up. It grounds you. It says, pay attention, take responsibility, live deliberately. And that is far more demanding than belief. Belief says, everything will be okay. Awareness asks, what are you doing to make it okay? So don't ask whether God created you as a way to escape responsibility. Ask it as a mirror. Because if you were created, you owe life your best effort. And if you weren't, you owe existence your full presence. Either way, sleep is no longer an option. Responsibility is the real answer. Becoming worthy of existence. At some point in life, every human being reaches a silent crossroads. Not a dramatic one. Not marked by signs or voices from the sky, but a quiet moment. When excuses stop working. A moment when blaming God, blaming society, blaming parents, blaming circumstances no longer explains the emptiness inside. That moment asks only one question. What are you doing with your life? Not what you believe, not what you claim to stand for, not what you hope will happen someday. What are you doing right now? This is where responsibility begins, not as punishment, not as pressure, but as power. Because the moment you take responsibility, you reclaim control. As long as God is responsible for your life, you remain passive. As long as fate is responsible, you wait. As long as luck is responsible, you gamble. But when you are responsible, you act. And action is the language of life. Here is the truth most people don't want to hear. If God exists, He does not need your words. He does not need your prayers if your life is undisciplined. He does not need your beliefs if your actions are weak. A life lived without responsibility is an insult to creation. And if God does not exist, if this life is a brief spark in an endless universe, then wasting it is even more unforgivable. Either way, discipline becomes sacred. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is self-respect. It is saying this life matters too much to be wasted. It is waking up when it's uncomfortable. It is doing the work when no one is watching. It is controlling your impulses instead of being controlled by them. Most people want freedom, but they don't want discipline. They don't realize discipline is the price of freedom. Without it, your desires own you, your emotions own you, your past owns you. With it, you own yourself. Responsibility also means facing yourself honestly. Not the image you show the world, but the truth you avoid in silence. The habits you justify, the laziness you defend, the fear you call waiting for the right time. There is no right time. There is only now. Life does not reward intentions. It responds to movement. If the source of creation is alive within you, then every moment is an invitation. An invitation to grow, to refine, to sharpen your character. Not for applause, not for validation, but because you were given the capacity. And ignoring that capacity is the greatest form of self-betrayal. Look around, nature doesn't procrastinate. The sun doesn't negotiate. A seed doesn't complain about the soil. Life moves forward, relentlessly. And the only creature capable of wasting life is the human being. Not because we are weak, but because we are unconscious. And once you become conscious, there is no excuse left. But this is where belief finally becomes irrelevant. Because belief without embodiment is empty. What matters is not what you say about God, but how you treat your body, your time, your mind, your word. Integrity is the real prayer. Discipline is the real worship. Responsibility is the real faith. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to understand the universe. You don't need certainty. What you need is commitment. Commitment to live deliberately. Commitment to pay attention. Commitment to become better than yesterday. That alone is enough. So ask yourself, honestly, if God created you, are you living in a way that honors that creation? And if no one created you, are you living in a way that justifies your existence? Because either way, this life is asking something from you. And it is not belief, it is presence, it is discipline, it is action. One day, this body will stop. Your opinions will fade, your arguments will disappear, your beliefs will no longer matter. But the way you lived, the effort you gave, the responsibility you carried, that will remain, not in memory, but in consequence. So don't wait for certainty. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for God to speak. Life is already speaking. Through your breath, through your potential, through the quiet voice that says, you can do more. Listen to that voice and act. Whether God created you or not, you are here. Now live like it matters.